Reiki, Crystal Reiki, healing, for information, visit www.alchemyofthegoddesses.com or
contactradio.com. Host of the host and a stage by
tuning in.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me again for today. I'm your host, Miss Adri. This is 145 countries, and we Before we start, I'd like to thank you as well for joining me each and every week, for providing me the opportunity to share and grow with you. There's nothing more valuable than time, so I'm honored that you're sharing yours with me. So now let's just jump right on into our guest today. Such a juicy, wonderful conversation I know that's going to be happening with this bright, courageous soul. I'm so excited to be sharing this hour with her. So Tabitha Cavanagh is a 33-year-old mother, wife, IT gaming recruiter, and young-onset colorectal cancer survivor. Diagnosed at only 31 years old, Tabitha has learned to let her challenges excite her, knowing each obstacle is another chance to propel her forward. She sees her cancer journey as a gift, and through it discovered her deep passion for helping others. She says we only sell ourselves short when we are convinced we have no choice in our solution. The truth is, we all have a choice. Tabitha, as you will hear, is passionate, dedicated, and eager to help end colorectal cancer in our lifetime. Sharing her story is saving lives. Welcome to the show, Tabitha.
Louise, thank you. This has been a long time coming. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. It has been a long time coming, hasn't it? So we met on LinkedIn. I don't even know quite when it was. Probably close to a year ago. And why don't you share with the listeners why we decided to wait so long to have this chat?
Yes, it is. It felt like forever, but at the same time, it flew by, and we're here. And Luis has been amazing. And we decided that we would wait until March because March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. So we thought, how perfect. Let's chat at the beginning of the month to really raise awareness, let people know what's going on, and just get excited around everything we do this month to really help the cause.
Yeah, so there are a lot of people, unfortunately, who do get cancer, are diagnosed with cancer, but not everyone feels compelled to share their story. I'd love to hear a little bit about why you feel so strongly, and I'm glad that you do. I'm glad that you are willing to share your story, but what is it in you that makes you feel so strongly and passionate about sharing this?
Well, I think I've always been a people person, and I've always wanted to help people, but this experience definitely propelled me to new heights in that way. And I remember standing in the kitchen with my sister-in-law thinking something good has to come from this, right? I didn't know what was going to happen. Of course, I had the best outcome in my head was that I would survive and that everything would be okay. But at the time, I didn't know. So when I was talking to her, I said, I have to use my story for good. And to do that, I have to share it. And that's in that moment, right after I was diagnosed, I remember just that feeling, that overwhelming feeling that this is going to happen. I have to get it out there because if my story saves one person, then it was so worth it.
So this was something that really at the early stages, you decided you were going to use it for good. Like what a really profound thing to have experienced and to have felt at a time where I can't imagine what that experience is even like. You were 31, you're a young mother and you were already thinking about being of service to others.
Well, I think that decision saved my life. And it wasn't something at the time, actually, that I really had to choose. It's kind of weird and hard to explain. I feel like it was just so. It was just in me, and I just felt that. And I think when you feel that tug, you have to follow it. And I'm so glad I did, because opening my life up to others during my cancer journey was one of the biggest blessings in so many ways. I met people that were strangers who became family because of the journey and our journeys together. So I will never ever regret my decision to go public with it as much as I could. And in doing so, I was able to align myself with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, and I'm doing amazing things right now with them and helping to raise awareness, especially in young onset cancer. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah, you are incredible. You talk about the importance of mindset and how important that was through your journey. And I'd like to jump into that a little bit, but I'm wondering if you would mind sharing with us what your life was like in your 30, 31 before you had this news. What were you doing? What was your life like? And then tell us a little bit about how you discovered that you had cancer, and what made you actually even go to get something investigated. Because I really want to make sure that through the sharing of your story that we're giving people a little bit of information throughout the hour, so it might spark something in them should they need to go get checked themselves. So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So it kind of started, I can't really tell the story without going back to when I was pregnant in 2014, when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, who's now almost 4. So she's kind of been on this whole journey with me too. And when I was pregnant, I started having symptoms. People kind of get a little weird talking about colon cancer because it's butt stuff, right? And it makes people uncomfortable. But let me tell you how comfortable I've gotten talking about that. But I was having symptoms, right? So I was having a little blood in my stool when I would go to the bathroom, and I chalked it up to being pregnant. I'm like, I've never been pregnant before. This is probably just a pregnancy symptom. So I'm actually sorry to say that I didn't do anything about it. I actually didn't even tell my OB because, again, I was like, oh, it's just some weird pregnancy thing. Tabitha, don't complain about everything. So I sort of ignored it. And then after I had my daughter, my symptoms kept coming and actually kept getting worse. I started getting nauseous. That was like a daily thing, which with colorectal cancer, that doesn't always happen, but that was one of my symptoms. In addition to, still blood when I would go to the bathroom occasionally, and it would come and go too. So it was kind of easy to sort of just write off at first. But with the nausea, and then I started getting dizzy, and I was getting extremely fatigued. And over about a year, I would say, I kept going back to the doctor. And he just kept kind of trying to treat my symptoms versus actually dig deeper, because people don't look at a 31-year-old, otherwise healthy woman and say, hey, this is probably colorectal cancer. So, we did a blood test that came back clear. So that gave me a false sense of security. Right. And, we had done some other testing. He had given me pills for my nausea. Nothing was helping. Finally, it was the week before my wedding, and I went to the bathroom, and it was all blood. And I took myself to the ER, and I stayed overnight, and then a couple days later, they scheduled me a colonoscopy, and this is 3 days before my wedding. I'm doing the prep and dealing with all of this. And
wedding stuff.
Yeah, wedding stuff and prep stuff and colonoscopy. It was crazy. But, and my biopsy from that actually came back benign, which means not cancer, for those that might not be familiar with that term. And something inside of me the whole time just said, keep fighting for yourself, keep advocating for yourself, because something is wrong. And I'm not going to stop until I get an answer. And even when it came back benign, I still felt like, I still need to take care of this. There was a big polyp that went around the entire way on the inside of my colon. And so I went to, I researched doctors, and I ended up at the Cleveland Clinic with an amazing surgeon there who was one of the only ones actually willing to touch this. And so I went there, he started the procedure. I was supposed to be in about an hour, and then we were going to do it again 6 weeks later. Well, long story short, while I was in there, he realized that it was suspicious. So they ended up doing essentially an emergency colon resection. And I woke up 5 hours later to having had, about 6 to 8 inches of my colon removed. And then 2 weeks later, I got the call that it was stage 3 colon cancer.
Wow, Tabitha. It's hard to, it's hard to hear that. It's hard to hear that story. So you're married now. You've got a little person who you're responsible for. What next? Like what goes through your mind?
That's an interesting question that I think people who have not had a firsthand experience, whether you're a caregiver or you were the actual person going through and battling cancer, but I think people have this perception that once chemo ends and your cancer is gone, that's it. You're better. Everything's great. And let me tell you, I am so grateful to be here, but life after cancer can be a little confusing. I spent the better part of the year going through chemo, having multiple surgeries, and essentially just focusing 100% on me. Mm-hmm. That was very difficult on my marriage. It was difficult on, being a mother and feeling like I was less than, feeling like I couldn't give what I wanted to be giving. So it's hard. Life after cancer can be very difficult, but I think it comes down to mindset and perception and how you see things, and the lens in which I see the world now is just a different shade. I'm not always all butterflies and sunshine and rainbows and all that stuff, but I do consciously make a choice every day when I wake up to be thankful for the fact that I woke up, and to remember that in my minutes that I have that day, I need to be making the most of them, whatever I'm doing, and I sort of fell into recruiting after chemo, and that was a blessing. It's something I had been thinking about. And I really believe that up until then, my cancer journey kind of stopped me in my tracks and redirected me to, in my opinion, exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
So much yumminess in what you've just shared, and so many insights that I think that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to reflect on at the age of 31. Certainly I certainly don't wish cancer on anyone to have those kinds of reflections, but you've just, what you share in terms of how you've grown and that perspective that you now have on life is really quite refreshing. A couple of times now you've mentioned feeling a tug. Once you actually said you felt a tug. You said when you feel that tug, you have to follow it. And there was a specific time you were mentioning that when you had the surgery and it came back benign, and you said you felt this tug to keep fighting for yourself. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but the message I really, really, I guess, wanted to share or have you maybe comment on is what are you going to say to someone who feels that, who gets a message from the medical community that no, everything is fine, yet inside they feel something that's telling them otherwise? I really want to make sure that we send a strong message to our friends listening as it relates to that.
Well, I think there's a fine line between being a hypochondriac, I think, correct, and it is true, because I find myself being more of a hypochondriac now. I'm like, oh, I have a headache. Do I have brain tumor? And that's a little, but I've thought it before. You do get a little nervous, but that tug, you just have to know your body, and you have to be willing to not only know your body, pay attention to your body, but also be willing to admit when something is wrong, and to not be afraid to go ask for help. And so that's what I did. I just kept listening to myself. I knew my symptoms were getting worse. I knew that this was not just nothing that a simple nausea pill would fix.
Yeah.
So I think just remembering that you need to trust yourself and not be afraid to get a second opinion, because I've gotten multiple opinions, and that's what got me to, I think 4 or 5 doctors later is what got me to my colon resection and my cancer diagnosis. So don't be afraid to keep fighting for yourself, because you're the only one that's going to fight for you.
I think it's just such an important part of your story and of your journey that I really didn't want to pass by this section of your sharing without sort of trying to hit that point home a little more. So you talked about how at this point in your life, it was a bit of a fork in the road, a big fork in the road that created this opportunity for you that you're now in. There's someone who is connected to you on LinkedIn who asked a question, and I wanted to give Jonah Stewart the chance to have the question answered, which is, what led you to be an IT gaming recruiter? It seems appropriate to ask this question now. So how did it come into your life at this time, and why did you walk through that door?
Sure. Hey, Jonah, thank you for asking the question. That's a very good question and kind of a loaded answer, but essentially, where everything had led me up to this point. I had thought about recruiting in years past and never pursued it. It was kind of one of those fleeting thoughts that went in and out, and that was kind of it. But I had my daughter. I was home with her for about 6 months, and then I needed to do something. And this was back in 2015. So I started working. I got into marketing and sales. I was working for Living Social at the time. It was a really great company, but unfortunately, about 9 months in, I had gotten laid off. That was actually when I was right before I was pregnant. And then, I lost my job. I was pregnant. We had just bought a house. It was crazy. So, when you're in those moments, you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? And then on the other side, you're like, that was the biggest blessing in disguise. Yeah. So I, had my daughter. I ended up babysitting actually because I was a nanny for a while. I wanted to be with my daughter. And so me getting laid off actually gave me the opportunity to do that. And then I was diagnosed with cancer while I was nannying, and I couldn't be around all the germs and kids and things like that. So I had to stop. And that was when, for the better part of a year, I didn't work. I couldn't work. I was very, very sick from chemo. But then at the end of chemo, I started thinking about life after cancer and what that looked like. And actually, and this is why I feel like this is really where I'm supposed to be, everything sort of fell into my lap in terms of, my friend posted about the job on Facebook, and she had only had the post up for a little bit of time before she decided to take it down. And in that little bit of time, I saw it. And we talked, and a week later, I was getting the job offer. And IT and gaming actually was just kind of a coincidence, I guess you can call it, or I didn't necessarily choose that right off the bat. But now that I'm in it, I absolutely love it. The communities are so much fun. There's a lot of people, really smart people that, I'm not a programmer, but they're doing really, really great things. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to be a part of. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I always say you are where you're needed. And I feel like I don't know what the rest of my life holds, but I know right now that what I do every day is, I get the chance to help people better their life situation in a professional way and hopefully personal as well. So hopefully that answers that question a little bit.
I thought that was great. Hopefully Jonah is satisfied with that too, I'm sure. I love what you said. You are where you're needed. I think that's just such a beautiful, simple statement, which can really create a lot of gratitude and groundedness, I think, in any moment. Whether a moment is challenging or a moment that is joyful. I think I really, really like, I love that. You know that I love quotes, and I've got a huge collection of quotes. I'm going to add that to mine. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
You were mentioning how, life after cancer, what does it look like? What did you come up with, right? So, you're thinking into the future. So what did you envision? What did you picture that to be?
I mean, I picture it over and over every single day, and it always looks different because it always involves, the one steady part about it is that it always involves helping other people, right? That's just where I want to be. That's the space I want to be in. And so I don't know what's going to happen or anything, but that actually helps me live in the moment. So in kind of looking ahead to the future, life after cancer, I'm actually living in the moment more, I think, than I ever have. And so it's kind of a cool thing to just really remember to be present, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And I know, I'll speak for myself, that I used to go to bed at night and just assume that I'd wake up the next day, because typically what happens when you're a person, right? But after something like this, I remember there were nights where I would especially when I would get sick during chemo, and I would be like, if I was even more sick on top of chemo, maybe a fever or other things, I remember wondering, am I going to wake up?
Wow.
Because that was kind of a hard thing to kind of come to terms with. So now every day I just try to be grateful for the minutes I do have here and try to spend my time doing the things that can be most impactful. And sometimes that means I'm reading a story with my daughter. Sometimes it means I'm offering support in the cancer community. It really always looks different, and that's one thing I really love about it.
So Jay, my partner, Jay and I were at a Tony Robbins event last September, and there was this really hilarious woman whose name I can't remember. Her last name is LaRoche. She is like in her 80s, and she's a stand-up comedian. She's absolutely hysterical. And one of the things that she was saying and sharing with the audience was that why don't, we wake up in the morning and so many of us like, oh, I've got to go to work, or I've got to get the kids breakfast, or I got to, whatever it is. She's like, why would we not wake up instead and say, I'm back?
Yes. I'm going to do this morning now.
I know, right? And so sometimes Jay and I will do that with one another, and like, what a great way to start the day. It's just
so true.
It's really, really funny. And so, yeah, I'd even like to go. I'd like to do this one day. I'm not yet because it's escaped it's not been top of mind. But I'd love to go into this place that I do some HR consulting and walk in there and say, I'm back. I mean,
yes.
Just to get a rise. But so I think you're right. We take a lot of these things for granted that we have in front of us each and every day. And so that's a beautiful, a beautiful reality now that you've been blessed with. I also really think it's interesting how something that you've just shared is something that I'm challenged with right now. It's this notion of surrendering. So you said that you really just want to make sure you're in the space of always helping others and not necessarily knowing then, in 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, what that necessarily looks like, but it's in the space of helping others. And when you have such a belief in you are where you're needed, I think that what a beautiful combination to then truly be surrendering to the paths and the doors that are in front of you that open with ease. I spent far too much of my life, and this is where I'm still challenged, I think, I know, creating what the how is going to look like, right? So I've already determined what all the doors I'm going to smash through. And if those doors aren't opening with ease, there might be some other paths that actually might help me get to where I really need to be that I'm completely ignoring because I'm like, no, headstrong. So your ability to be so present and fluid and mindful while still having dreams, visions, and aspirations for your future is very admirable.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it didn't come easily, right? I haven't always been exactly this way, but now I do try to recognize the importance of being open to everything, because that's another thing that I either go to bed thinking or wake up thinking primarily is just that, please, whatever you might believe in, or if you don't believe in God or whatever, but I do have a belief in God, and I say, God, please put me where I'm needed today. Please introduce me to the people that need me, and vice versa, and people that I need too, right? Because I like to think of it as a two-way street. As much as I want to be the one helping, sometimes I have to remember that I need to be asking for help too. So I think being open and keeping your mindset there, and just that you are where you're needed. And so anything can be possible when you see your current situation as a blessing, no matter what it looks like. Yeah. Even a challenge and you're like, I just lost my job or whatever it might be. Okay. And I'm, I'm sorry for the people that have been laid off or lost their job for one reason or another, but I mean, let that excite you. Where are you going next? Maybe you didn't leave your job, even though you should have left it 5 years ago. And now here you are in a position to create this brand new adventure that can take you anywhere if you let it. So yeah, that's the mind space I try to keep on a daily basis, just in case anything changes and doesn't go as planned, then I'm more fluid and not so, caught off guard and and taken aback and have to like curl up in a ball and say, oh, what am I going to do now? Now it's like, okay, well, what's next? What's next?
Unless you pivot with more ease. I mean, because when does life ever really pan out the way that you plan it? It doesn't. It doesn't. So I think having plans and goals are important, but there's got to be some flexibility and looseness, within that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned a moment ago that you sometimes have a tough time asking for help. No doubt there were people who had to help you your whole life. We all have people who help us along the way, but no doubt even more so during your cancer treatment and recovery. Who are some of those people that who helped you along the way?
Oh my gosh, the list is, I am blessed to say the list is very long, and I'm so sorry this keeps falling out on me, but there's so many people. I mean, I was blessed, and that is one of the reasons actually that I feel so compelled to help others, is because I want everyone to have the support that I did. I mean, my family, my immediate family, my friends, my husband, my daughter, everybody offered something. The colorectal cancer community, they have a wonderful support group online through the CCA. Well, I'll call them the Alliance, which is the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. They've been a huge support. I actually was able to visit there a couple weeks ago and help them with some LinkedIn stuff, which was really, really cool.
Awesome.
To give Yeah, that gave me so much and continues to give me so much. So I would just say there's a really long laundry list of people, and people came out of the woodworks. I mean, strangers that I met in the community that were local to me had met to give me advice or things on the nausea or some things that helped them when there's never any way I will be able to repay all the people and the things they did for me while I went through that journey. So.
And I guess to your point, that's why you're paying it forward. And kindness, my mom said to me growing up, is the most underrated quality. And I didn't know what that really meant until I've been through some experiences myself, and have had more life experience. And I so believe that to be true. And I know you have a belief similar to that in terms of kindness as well. So talk to us a little bit about what kindness has meant to you and how you pay that forward.
Sure. So kindness, I was actually just writing about this the other week. It costs nothing to be kind, but it can cost you everything if you're not. And that's the other thing I just try to remember. I feel like I get back so much more when I am kind to others, and when I help others. I almost feel like it's selfish. Like I might be helping you, but you're actually giving me so much more. And I really believe that. I just feel like this sunshine inside of my soul when you're able to help someone who really needs that help, especially when they're willing to come out and ask for it. Because as we just mentioned, it can be very difficult to ask for help. A lot of people feel that way. So I try to remember that, okay, coming to ask for help was probably not the easiest thing. I've had caregivers reach out to me. I've had patients reach out to me, and they're scared and they don't know where else to turn, but something about maybe something I wrote, caught their attention. And so they took the time to reach out for help. And I could never, ever, ever imagine saying no to people that come to me for that. So I really need more time in the day, but I do the best that I can with the moments that I have to help as many people as I can, even if it means in recruiting and someone reaches out to me about an industry other than IT and gaming. I do my best. Of course, I'm not perfect. I've missed messages, but I do my best to really get back to them, even if I just help them make a connection, make an introduction, offer them a piece of advice on how they might improve their headline or their resume, something to help them take one more step forward, even if that step might feel like a little baby step at the time, but hopefully something that will ultimately make a bigger impact in their life.
I so relate to that. Having a recruiting background as well. I don't know if I mentioned that to you, but recruiting background, we've got that in common as well. What do you think is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned through this whole experience that you've been on, this journey of life? What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far?
Oh man, I think one of my biggest takeaways is, one of the things I said all throughout my journey was that cancer requires community. And then the closer we got, even just it took me a little bit to realize, you know, like CRC, cancer requires community, colorectal cancer. I don't know. Like, it was like a cool kind of tie in there. But I think that it's that notion of, and for people that know me or people that even see it on my LinkedIn, is my Ezra 10:4 verse. I mean, not mine, but you know what I mean? It's mine. But that was like my mantra all throughout. It, you know, for people that don't know it, it's arise, for it is your task, and we are with you. Be strong and do it. And for me, that was like, okay, get the heck up. All right, sit around. This is on you. You are in control of you. But remember that we are with you. So create this sense of community and be strong. You know, that says it all. Be strong and do it. That particular end part, the be strong and do it, was really the part that I kept close to me, because I just thought, no matter what, just do it. Just get up, muster up that energy. That reminds me of like finding your grit and just do it, because you can. It's a choice, and we have to make that.
And that's just such a relatable thing, whether you're whether there's a listener who's fighting cancer or fighting a different battle. The battle might be a job search. The battle might be a relationship that has ended. I love what you said, be strong and do it. I think a lot of these principles, it doesn't matter what the challenges may be that we may face through life, that mindset that you have is one that is relevant to, you know, all stages and experiences, I think. So we've talked about mindset. How important was that in your recovery?
Oh, I mean, it was essential. I mean, my body could do what it did because my mind told me it could. And that was the whole time. I just had to keep thinking, you know, when I was laying on the couch, and I remember after my first chemo, I got really sick because I wasn't drinking the right amount of water, because I was really sick and I was struggling to keep things down. So I ended up back in the hospital just for fluids to build myself back up. And there were so many moments in my journey that were just so hard. And I use that word. I do my best not to use that word in almost anything else in life, because after going through chemo and battling cancer, I realized that other things are not hard. Going to the gym, not hard. We get to go to the gym. That's a blessing. That is not a hardship. So I try to remember that, like, getting up in the morning early is not hard. Yes, it might seem annoying in the moment, but like you said, get up and say, I'm here. That's right. I'm ready to crush the day. So I think remembering those things kept me going, and knowing, okay, I'm laying on the couch. I feel crummy. I haven't showered in 5 days because, you know, when I was going through chemo, I couldn't move. It was crazy. But remembering that mindset, it just, my mind, it could tell everything in my mind. I could do it. If my mind said it, I could do it. And that's just, it seems simple to say it, but in practice, it's a lot more difficult. So that's one thing I try to take with me every day, is no matter how hard something is, you know, even though I battled cancer, I'm human. So there's still things that scare me or make me nervous that aren't cancer and that aren't nearly as bad as cancer, right? Like, I hate spiders, but when you think about like stuff like that, it just seems so silly. But anyway, you just mind over matter. It really does work. And I believe that I'm still here in large, you know, of course, my team of doctors and everything and my support system, but also mind. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my sister had a bone marrow transplant 14 years ago now. And yeah, her mindset I found remarkable, you know, and I saw things in her that I'd never seen before, in terms of that being such a core piece to her, you know, how she got through it. It's not that she shared a lot, but you could see it. You could see the strength of her mind, and it's quite a thing to be witness to. And I think it's Mike Dooley says, thoughts become things. So choose the good ones.
Yeah, that's great. And I remember you telling me about your sister before, and I'm so glad that she had that impact on you and on herself. And that's another thing about mindset, right? It's in here. You don't always need to say it out loud. And really should come through your actions. So while it's great to come through words when you're trying to help others or inspire others, when you're going through a challenge and your mindset is right, I mean, you just do the things that you need to do to get and come out on the other side. Along the way, it inspires people like you. Your sister did just that, and you felt that impact as well. So that's really special.
It is. It's a reminder as well of, well, there's so many things to take away from it, but that you impact people in ways, you impact more people than you ever really know. Just the way you go about living your everyday life, the way you show up each day, we all impact each other, right? And so the people that, do we want to leave a positive impact in the world, or do we want to, well, I think we all essentially know that we want to, but we have the choice. So tell us now, who inspires you now? So as you're going through your day and as you're growing and learning as a woman, as a mother, as a partner, in your career, in health, who do you seek sort of motivation and inspiration from?
Well, the LinkedIn community has provided me truly with so much inspiration on a daily basis. I think that is a very difficult question to answer because I don't want to leave anybody out. I will name a few people that have been instrumental in the past year of my life. I mean, I don't want to discount at all my family because, of course, they've been there for me. My husband, my daughter, of course, is my big why and the reason why I get up every day. But I think you just touched on it, and it's the people that show up every day despite anything else that's going on. And that's the hardest part to do. I struggled with that after cancer. And after my chemo ended and I had started working, I struggled with, there was a big mix of my personal life, mixing with my professional life and trying to find that balance. And that was difficult. So I think just keep showing up. And I was looking for people to surround myself with. And there's so many people online or on LinkedIn or offline as well that are doing that every single day. And I think some of the people that really inspire me, Judy Fox, good old Fox Rocks. I think, I think everybody knows her, but she's amazing. She has been through a lot as well. And of course I won't share her story here, but she's become one of my best friends. And we on LinkedIn, we always joke that we met online. But she has been awesome. And oh man, I mean, I've got some really great friends, my friend Rosanna, my friend Lauren. There's just so many people. My boss, Chuck, he actually has been in this past year and a half. He was, the first professional relationship I really had after cancer. He knew about my story from my very first interview. He has supported me just through everything. He has been wonderful. And what he does that I want to share with people is, be my boss, but part of him being a great leader is that he is always asking me to challenge him. He is always challenging himself. He listens to podcasts, he reads books, he is constantly sharing his knowledge, and he just wants to be better every day. And I think that those types of people are the people that I want to attract. And I think to attract that, we have to put that energy out there.
We absolutely do. Yeah. And I think you touch on a really important piece as well in terms of having a supportive workplace when you're going through challenging situations like this. Not everybody has, I realize this was after cancer, but you've just had cancer. I mean, that's a huge thing to be bringing to the workplace in terms of your story and how others then may react to you. And so I think that there'll be listeners who have not had such a positive experience in having their story as respected and themselves as respected as a survivor of cancer. People are afraid. So big shout out to him.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah. I realize that too. And it makes me really sad. I've known a lot of people who their workplaces were not as supportive. So if someone out there is listening and you're an employer and you feel like you can make a difference in that way, life happens to all of us. I think my boss says that a lot. It's a Jim Rohn quote. And, we just have to keep showing up. But if we don't have the support in the times of when we need that, that can be very difficult. And I think whether it's cancer or a divorce or, there's a whole list of challenges we all face, to think that people aren't human and that they can just shut that off when they go to work. I think those lines are blurred no matter how you look at it. I'm sorry. I don't think that there's a black and a white when it comes to work and home. I think that they're mixed. I think they should be mixed because, of course, to a certain extent, right? But I think they have to be. And then you have to find that equilibrium. It's not really a balance. It's kind of just like a coexistence, and you figure out sometimes work might need more attention. Sometimes home might need a little more attention, and you have to find that intersection or that parallel, however they're supposed to work together. So
yeah, it really is a blend, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It is a blend. And I think once I realized that, which again, maybe I'm a slow learner, I learned that a little later in life, because I was really trying to create what I thought that, my life was supposed to be. But when I kind of just sort of took a step back and just let myself breathe and really try to make sense of what this was all about, it became a lot clearer that you can have it all, but not all at the same time. Right? And I was trying to force all of these things, and sometimes you just need to surrender that. I wanted to ask you something, because you've mentioned a couple of times now that you write articles, and I know where I can find it on LinkedIn. If someone is interested in reading some of what you put out there, how would they find you?
So right now I'm just on LinkedIn, and that's my primary place. Probably the easiest way is to search me on LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn, the links are a little weird, but it's linkedin.com/in/Tab the Recruiter. And then you can also find me using a hashtag Tab the Recruiter, and also hashtag Save the Booty. That's I
love that. Did you come up with that?
Yeah, so I came up with it during, I think I'm trying to remember if my sister helped me come up with it. But I think that was, in the very beginning, we were working on some things, and Save the Booty came up, and I used that on Facebook through my entire journey. That was where people could find me. It kind of became a thing, people just recognized it, and it was kind of fun, lighthearted, I guess. So I started using that recently on LinkedIn, especially when I talk about cancer stuff. And this month, especially with it being Awareness Month, I'm going to be posting, probably not every day, but almost every day, just some type of new fact about colon cancer and prevention and screening and being a caregiver and what survivor's guilt looks like. And so I'm going to be talking about a lot of things to kind of touch on a ton of different points in this space. So there's a little something for everyone, even if you haven't been affected directly by colon cancer.
So what's the message that you want people to walk away with when either they've heard you speak or in some of the sharings that you're going to be putting on LinkedIn? What's the message?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is mindset, is just your perspective and the fact that we can choose our outcome. And even if we don't know, I know a lot of people talk about outcome and think of your outcome first. And sometimes we don't know our outcome. In fact, I'd probably argue that most of us don't know our outcome. I want to be when I grow up, right? I'm still searching for that.
Yeah, we may have a desired outcome.
Right. There might be a desired outcome, but you don't know what that is. And I think keeping an open mind, understanding that you can choose your situation. And if you can't in that moment choose your situation, you can choose how you react to it. And so those are my biggest things, I think. Just keeping that in mind, knowing that you can do whatever comes your way when you put your mind to it and when you choose it. And also taking the responsibility is very empowering. I was just reading something the other day that talked about that, and it really resonated with me, because I thought no matter what situation you're in, or even if you feel like you want to blame somebody else, like, it's not my fault I got cancer, it's not my fault this. When you start, it's not necessarily about blame, but it is about recognizing your part in it, what you can do to help, alleviate the situation or to help get you to a better place, whatever that might be.
Awesome. Something that I wanted to sort of touch on before we're getting close to the top of the hour, but I really want to understand how you, in moments of self-doubt, and whether we're talking about through your cancer journey, whether we're talking now, I think everyone can relate to those moments of doubt. What do you do in those moments to build yourself back up?
I breathe. Someone in my cancer journey told me early on that she said, I'll never forget it. She said, just breathe, take a couple of deep breaths. And at the time I was like, yeah, like deep breaths. Okay. I mean, I was grateful for her advice, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking, okay, what, just another piece of advice that like, I don't know what to do with, but I tried it. And ever since then, that is one of the top things I tell people to do in any situation where you're feeling stressed. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, really big, deep breaths, like really feel it like in your soul. And that is one thing that when I'm feeling doubtful that I put into practice. And the other thing is just doing it, right? Just showing doing it. So one thing that I struggled with was cold calling, and it seems kind of weird because I'm a recruiter, right? That's what I do. I'm on the phone all day, but I was scared to call people because I didn't want to bother them. I didn't want to interrupt their day. And now the way that I look at it is I know I have an opportunity that could very well change your life for the better. And I'm calling you with that opportunity. If you choose not to open the door and at least take a peek in and see what's going on, that's up to you, but I'm doing my part. So I think in moments of doubt, you just have to remember to believe in yourself and do the positive self-talk thing. Even though it sounds kind of cheesy, it really, really helps. Tell yourself you're great because you are. What are you good at? Really reinforce that belief in yourself. And the other thing that empowers me is when I remember that I control myself. So I tell people, you control you. And when you remember that, there's nothing that can stop you because you're not sitting around waiting for permission from someone else. You can do it on your own terms, whatever that is. So I think those are some of my biggest takeaways when it comes to having doubt in myself, because it happens. I doubt myself probably a lot more than I even should. So just keeping all those things in mind helps me move forward and continue to show up.
Yeah, and I think those are great tips. I mean, we see people moving bravely forward, and we think they are doing it without fear. And that's not true at all.
No.
Moving forward, you breathe and you just take the next right step. If you're nervous, that usually means you're growing.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's a word fearless. I mean, I know the intent of the word fearless, but I really think that we do a disservice by touting that word too much. I think we need to fear less, but you don't move forward fearlessly.
I love that. That. Fear less. Also, I think it just means showing up with fear.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think let's just delete that fearless word.
Yes.
We got to come up with a new word, but yeah, I think moving forward, despite the fear, moving forward, even though you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable position. I've been there, even with my job. It might not seem like a big deal, but again, back to the cold calling. Now, when I do it, I'm not always 100% comfortable. It takes me a little bit to get in the swing, but repetition is another thing that helps. Just keep doing it. Keep showing up, keep doing it. And it eventually will start to feel more natural. You'll get more comfortable doing it. But to take that growth, to your point, to take that next step and to continue to grow, you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You just have to, because chances are you're probably not going to be, if you're comfortable, you're probably not growing, which I'm sure people have heard, said before, but.
Yeah. There's just so much I can relate to and everything that you're sharing. And I'm sure that it's relatable for everyone who's listening as well. I've got a total random question here because it's just, I don't know where this
random.
Yeah, well, it's kind of random because I think because of your perspective on life, because of what you do right now in recruiting, I'm just kind of wondering what's a career or a job that you would just love to jump out and try right now? If that door was open to you, what would that be?
Oh man, I don't want to get in trouble with work. Kidding.
Let's leave this.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I love what I do, but of course people think about, even if you're happy in your job, right? Like you might think, I don't know, if I could do anything out there, I mean, one of my big dreams, I think, one day is to work for the Alliance and really be an integral part of helping them grow, helping them raise awareness. But right now, I'm actually really lucky to get to integrate that into my life as a volunteer and as a co-chair on the Never Too Young advisory board. That's kind of already, even though I'm not officially working for them, that's kind of already part of my life. And so something I really enjoy. And I really just want to get out there more. I think I want to speak to younger people, even in high school or college age kids, to just remind them the importance of all these things, right? Especially because they're going through a crazy time in life with all the change. Everything seems like the end of the world and that it's never going to get better. Like every, a breakup or something that now I realize, oh gosh, I'm so glad that I broke up with that guy, forever ago. But yeah, I would love to speak more. I really do want to write a book. I've been inspired by Anita Morjani. I'm not sure if you know her book. It's called Dying to Be Me. And no connection to the book other than someone recommended it to me. I read it and it seriously changed my perspective on life and on death. And so any of those things, I think just speaking and just getting my story out there to more people is something that I'm really, really hopeful to be able to do. So thank you for this opportunity too.
Yeah, I think, this is my favorite hour of the week. I love to bring on people, as I've mentioned to you before when we chatted, just everyday people are doing, like you, miraculous things and changing and touching lives, right? And I think that it's easy to look at people that we see in famous individuals who too may be doing really great things, not to take anything away from them and what they are able to use their status to try and support and drive forward. We all can do this though. We all can do this and you're doing it. And so I love to have this platform to be able to showcase wonderful people like you who have a mission, a passion, and a story to tell in service of others. So with that said, we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank you so much, Tabitha, for spending this time with us and for sharing your journey and for sharing your heart and your courageous spirit.
Thank you. I really just, thank you so much. It has been awesome. You're wonderful and you always say things so beautifully.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
I appreciate you. You're like a little ray of sunshine, like I said. I love your spirit. So thank you for what you do too.
Thank you for that. And of course, as always, I want to thank you as well, all my loyal listeners and followers, and remind you that information about my radio show and my guests can be found at louisehreed.com. Also, a big shout out to my producer, Cameron Steele at Contact Talk Radio Network. And finally, I'm here to highlight and showcase people who are taking brave, bold action like Tabitha, whose actions have a positive impact in our world. With that said, I'd like to encourage you all to be brave, be bold, and be happy. And in the words of Tabitha, be strong and do it. Until next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm Louise H. Reed, wishing you an amazing day. Goodbye, friends.
Okay, you're clear.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you. Good job. Nicely done.
Thank you. And I am so sorry for playing with these the entire show. They kept out of my ears, and I was like, "Oh my God."
No worries. Then you know what? It's all good. It's all natural. It's authentic, and it's real.
We're done, right?
It's all authentic and real. That's perfect.
Awesome.
It is. It didn't affect anything. People would have seen it, but it didn't affect the way you spoke at all. It was smooth and clear, so we're all good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm ruining this right now. But
no.
When I wear these, it's only on a plane when I'm like listening to, something and I'm sitting there, right? I'm not talking, I'm not doing anything. And apparently like these things don't like to stay in my ears. So, yeah.
Well, thank you again so much. Once I get the recording, I'll share it with you. Cameron is super quick at getting that to us. It's usually same day. And so I'll send all that stuff. Use that how is helpful for you. Tag me so I can. I would love to see that. And again, thank you so much. I'm glad that we finally got to share this time together.
Perfect.
Me too. Thank
Uh,
you. I'll definitely share
Tabitha, I put my phone number in there as well. If you want to call me, we can get started on talking about a podcast.
Cameron is trying to get me to do a podcast.
Well, you can at least talk to him, then you know what it's about.
I can't, like you said, there's a door and you at least explore it, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. You're not committing to anything by getting information.
That's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tabitha. Thanks, Cameron.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.